I know what the title of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's next project should be. It should be The Biggest Losers, because that is what they have been labeled this year by essentially everyone. It started with The Hollywood Reporter, but this article has gone everywhere, and everyone is running with this story that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in 2023, they are losers. And they are. They really are. Harry and Meghan have so badly handled their post-royal life that essentially they have tanked themselves. Their brand is cratering, their business prospects are also cratering, and they seem to have absolutely no direction for what they're going to do. And everyone is aware of this now. I think Harry and Meghan for a while could kind of massage it, kind of camouflage the chaos of their lives, but at this point, everybody knows Harry and Meghan. Everyone knows that you guys have no clue what you're doing. You got into a career that was not suited for either one of you. And now you are flailing in this house that you took out a $9 million mortgage on, and maybe perhaps are already going through a lot of financial trouble, and nothing is going to get better for them at this point because they don't seem to have a good public brand, and they're done nothing to sort of right the ship. In fact, the next thing that we've heard of time and time again that Meghan Markle is going to do is release a memoir. Like, we don't have enough information about her time as a royal. We need more. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think that's going to help you. But Harry and Meghan have never been able to help themselves. We also had the Archewell Foundation basically essentially in the negative for all intents and purposes when it comes to fundraising and everything. And you just even got to wonder, what is the point of this organization? So we are going to go over a couple of the loser items here for Harry and Meghan. Now, I will do a separate video on the disastrous overall year, but I really just want to focus on this idea of them losing. They're losing money, they're losing brands, they're losing sponsorships, they're losing business arrangements, and in general, they have become losers. Even though they left the royal family on a high thinking they were going to change the world, in fact, the world changed on them. They went from this glorious couple to somebody basically everybody thinks is toxic. And if they don't do something soon, it's never going to get any better for them. And so we are going to go over and explore all of this today because it is a wonderful day. It is almost Christmas, and I do have an exciting announcement to make. If you guys haven't been to Royal News Network, my name is Brittany, and I provide y'all compelling royal commentary and t-shirts. So I had designed this t-shirt last year. This is Recollections May Vary. I did a small order last year right before Christmas, and I have done another small order this year. So I will put a link in the description box down below. So if you're interested in these shirts, I have sizes extra small to extra large, and these are very comfortable, true to size. They are ladies fit, so they're not unisex. They are ladies fit, and so I find them to be incredibly comfortable. I've also ordered them for people who are going on my various trips. So I have been on trips with some of my followers to England and Germany and Austria, and I've gotten these shirts for them, and they've all absolutely loved them. And I actually took a bunch on a trip, and I ended up having to wear a bunch because it was so hot and I did not pack correctly for that trip. So I do absolutely love these. I live in them. They are fantastic. So if you guys are interested in that, links down below. And if you want a special trip t-shirt, because they are actually special, I make special shirts for the trips. Not the ones I sell here on the channel, but actually special ones for the trip that have the date and everything. I will be going to Scotland next year. It's going to be a super exciting time. We're going to go to Edinburgh and then up to the Isle of Skye and to Inverness. And it's going to be really, really amazing because Scotland is a gorgeous place. So if you guys are interested in any of that, links will be in the description box down below. And if you like my jewelry, Ana Lucia diamonds, I'll have all that linked too. So much going on. I realize there's so much bombarding you, but if you are like me and you love the royals and Harry and Meghan, they just, they just turn the screws to you, and you can just get all tense because they are very obnoxious people, and they just don't seem to be getting any better. This, I feel like, has been a year of a bit of divine retribution on Harry and Meghan, if I could dare to say that, because Harry and Meghan, when they left the royal family in 2020, in January 2020, almost 4 years ago, they seemed determined to basically burn all the bridges on the way out because they were going to do everything they could to basically be superior to the royals. I mean, Guys, don't forget, these are the couple who gave their demands to the royal family without clearing with anyone. I think they had told the royal family sort of what they expected in this post-Brexit deal. But instead of waiting for all the negotiations to take place, everybody to sign on the dotted line, they're like, you know what, we're just going to announce our plan, and the royal family, they're just going to roll over. And they didn't. And Harry and Meghan ended up getting stuck because they anticipated having security, still being able to do royal events, still having Frogmore Cottage, still being able to go on taxpayer-funded vacations, essentially, as representatives of the Commonwealth, as the Commonwealth Trust president and vice president. This was their plan. But of course it didn't go that way. And as time went on, Harry and Meghan seemed to get more and more vindictive on the family. And we already saw bad headlines coming through, but then it just started metastasizing, and you had the Oprah Winfrey interview, and then you had the reality TV show, and just all these rumors and leaks and everything. And then you had Harry's book Spare. And it just all conglomerated and just into this essentially very, very nasty brand that Harry and Meghan have created for themselves. And although Hollywood was interested in them initially because they were sort of a curiosity, obviously everybody was putting all their money into streaming, Hollywood has actually essentially decided now that, you know what? Betting on the Harry and Meghan horse was not such a good idea. In fact, it was disastrous, and they are officially losers. Now, I did read this quote in a video I did earlier this week, but I'm gonna go read it again because obviously we're springboarding off this whole idea of Harry and Meghan as losers in Hollywood. So here we go. It says, in 2020, the royal duo fled a life of ceremonial public service to cash in their celebrity status in the States. But after a whiny Netflix documentary, a whiny biography, Spare, even the title is a pouty gripe, and an inert podcast, the Harry and Meghan brand swelled into a sanctimonious bubble just begging to be popped. And South Park was the pin. The show's 20-minute worldwide privacy tour takedown in March was savage, and was followed by Spotify dropping archetypes with a top executive labeling the duo grifters. Still, all the scorn and mockery beats otherwise having to attend 200 plus official royal family engagements a year, which sounds hellish. Now, I don't think the last bit of that commentary is accurate, because I think there are a lot of benefits to going on royal engagements. Of course, tiaras being one of them, going on these incredible trips where, yes, you are working, and yes, there are cameras following you, but you get to do something that nobody else essentially gets to do. That's what I think is so fun about royal tours and watching them, is like they get to do all these different things, like cultural things, historical things, modern things, like all these sorts of different engagements. That's what makes royal tours so fun, I think. And so Harry and Meghan have missed out on that. And of course, missed out on what is a huge part of being royal, is actually having this incredible public platform and being essentially a representative of your government. I mean, that is a huge responsibility. And you get to walk around in palaces and talk to dignitaries. I mean, it's a pretty sweet gig, and one most of us probably couldn't imagine. Yes, there are boring aspects of it, of course, but there are also very, very cool things. I mean, can you say just because of your family connections that the Obamas came over and had dinner at your house? Not saying anything about politics, just saying that's pretty cool. I couldn't ask anybody to do that. I couldn't, bring any president. Barack Obama, of course, wouldn't come to my house and have dinner. But he came to dinner with Catherine and William because they have status. They have something that's incredibly important, which Harry and Meghan left at the door, but thought they could bring with them. So it's strange because they left it, yet they also thought they could use it. And as it turns out, you can't. Once you leave something, you just can't get it back. And that's what Harry and Meghan are discovering. And Hollywood, you have to remember as well, looking at this whole thing, and again, this is just something to think about as well, is that when Harry and Meghan signed all their initial deals, obviously content creation and especially streaming was huge. Everybody was putting all their money into it because of COVID. And since the bubble on that has burst and everybody has essentially gone back to their normal lives, every company has realized they way overspent on streaming, and that streaming is not having the returns they wanted. And so you have all these different companies who have put millions, if not billions, into streaming, and essentially none of them are making any money off of it. I think Disney Plus is like 11 billion in the red or something like that. Like, it's ridiculous. And so everybody is starting to pull back and readjust, and Harry and Meghan are going to be casualties of that because they have yet to do something that's exceptionally critical in this sphere. They've yet to create good content. Their content is boring. Their content is sanctimonious. And their content is not rewatchable. I think what was interesting is that Netflix revealed some of its top performing, well, actually a list of all its content. It's very encompassing, which is crazy. And they showed obviously Harry and Meghan, the reality TV show. And I can't remember exactly what place it was. I think it had 62 million minutes watched, and this was for the first half of 2023. And obviously you had December of 2022 that it was initially released, and then you had Spare that released in the beginning of the year to kind of continue that narrative. Except for the fact I don't think it's very rewatchable, because the problem with documentaries is, yes, sometimes documentaries can be very rewatchable, but sometimes they can't. And I don't think Harry and Meghan are creating rewatchable content. I have watched, oh, I didn't see where Live to Lead landed on that list. I'll have to look and see. I bet you that's bottom dollar crater, absolutely crater, because that thing was awful. Like, I didn't even watch it, but I could just tell. It seemed like cheaply produced, and like Harry and Meghan were adding themselves in it at the very last minute, which they were, to like get this product out there, because it was like old, because Ruth Bader Ginsburg had been interviewed and she had died like 2 years before that. And I'm like, okay, so this is like insanely old by this point. Anyways, and so because they've created content that's not rewatchable, people aren't consuming it. And that is a problem, because again, documentaries can be rewatchable. I love documentaries. I watch a lot of them, but they are sort of somewhat one and done things. There's a few that I'll watch again, especially if they're shorter, like a couple episodes. I'll rewatch them again because I find them very interesting. But other ones I'm like, you know, I got the gist of it. I understand the story now. I'm done. And I think Harry and Meghan vastly overestimated their competency in this area. And that's what also makes them losers here, is they had all the resources, but failed to execute on any of it well, timely, competently, and even just making it entertaining. Meghan Markle said at Variety she wants to mix entertainment and philanthropy. And I'm like, those are two separate things. Those are not the same thing, and they don't mix well. And documentaries, yes, again, they can be rewatchable, but they're not as rewatchable as other content. Usually, generally, fictional content is much more rewatchable. Because it was interesting too, because I went back and watched and looked at Suits, which got on Netflix and obviously ended up getting somewhat of a huge audience. Now, what I noticed is that every season gets further down on the list, because people, it seems like, watch the first season, less people watch the second, less people watch the third, and on down. Which also, I guess, shows too that people don't have a favorite season, because it's still new to a lot of people, so they're watching it in its entirety, and you get people who peter off naturally. But Suits is a rewatchable form of content. Harry and Meghan is not. It was not well done, I don't think. I found it boring in lots of sections. I found their unnecessary attention and obsession with their own love story a bit ridiculous. It's like, you guys are not Romeo and Juliet. Your love story is actually not that impressive. So stop telling us how fantastic it is, because it's really not. And because of that, and because the other things like Live to Lead and the Invictus Games, all of which didn't do well, and none of those two reached into the top 10. The Invictus Games, I would imagine, was watched better than Live to Lead, but I found the Invictus documentary also boring and pointless, because there was no real, I think, story driving the whole thing. They had different narratives, and some of them got resolved, some of them didn't. They should have focused on some things instead of others. Like, there was some bits within Ukraine that were very good, and there were other bits that dragged. And I'm like, why are we talking about this? I don't know why we're talking about this. I don't care. And that is from somebody who enjoys documentaries. Broadly, I love documentaries. A good documentary, ooh, that tickles my fancy for sure. But Harry and Meghan, I don't think, are good at it. And then you have Spotify, which was also an epic disaster, because Archetypes was not good. It was too contrived. It was boring. It was, again, preachy and just lectury, and she would take such long pauses and such contrived laughs and everything. You could just tell Meghan was reading from a script. And Hollywood is all aware of this now. Yes, they gave them the benefit of the doubt. They humored them for a while, but now they're all stepping back and going, you know what? We're all losing money here. None of the streaming stuff is going well, and you guys have yet to produce a decent product. And Harry and Meghan, I think, are 100% going to be dropped by Netflix. I don't think any of their projects are going forward. Meghan even said in a Variety interview, she gave very vague answers when it came to, well, we have a lot of projects and we can't wait to announce them, which is basically saying you have nothing. You're just trying to get people to buy in. And then we also had the interesting thing in Omid Scobie's book talking about how Meghan Markle wanted to create something that celebrated her love of fine details and a couple other things. And I can't remember what it was, but very much felt like Martha Stewart, an influencer, those sorts of things. But it had changed like 5 times. And so every time he went back to them and asked them more details, they had to say, oh, well, we changed that. And now, to be fair, that is the process of actually building something. Totally fine. But I think it goes to a larger problem, which is that Harry and Meghan are directionless. They don't know what to do. And they are in a pickle right now because I think they're getting a lot of pressure from Netflix and other organizations, and they can't perform. And they want to do their own thing, and they don't want to listen to anybody else because they've come to the Hollywood thinking, well, we're royals, so we don't have to take your advice. We don't have to take your orders. We can do our own thing in our own time, in our own way. And Hollywood, I think at this point is going, yeah, no, you sort of lost those privileges. We need XYZ now. And if you aren't going to do it, then we have a problem. And I am so curious about how Meghan Markle is going to handle that, because I don't think she's going to handle that well. And I think they're going to lose a lot of business because of it. We've heard they're difficult to work for. And there was even an interesting bit, and this was hard to find because somebody posted the picture. I looked for it and I couldn't find it. I was like, where is this at? And I could only find it by searching Montecito on Getty Images, and it was Meghan Markle, and she was interviewing, I guess, or having a conversation with Mason Harriman and another guy who was part of Mason Harriman's short film. And she was there, and I was wondering, it was part of Netflix. I was like, I wonder if Netflix told her, you need to go to this. And she's like, but I'm not really an interviewer or something like that. And they're like, no, you need to actually earn your paycheck because we have no clue what we're paying you for now. Which also Family Guy pointed out, by the way. So take a watch of this little bit.
Sir, your millions from Netflix for no one knows what.
Put it with the rest of them.
Yeah, nobody knows why they're paying Harry and Meghan millions of dollars. Nobody knows because Harry and Meghan aren't worth millions of dollars. And there was an interesting bit in the Times as well, which I thought was super fascinating. So I'm going to read you some bits of that too, because I look at that and I'm going, yeah, everybody is catching on to the failure that is Harry and Meghan. Then there's the business end of things. Over the summer, the LA Times reported that big money, big name deals with people who have no experience have fallen out of fashion among some executives as media and entertainment companies rethink how they spend their resources. There is quoted a former big cheese at YouTube saying, a lot of belt tightening right now. While an entertainment lawyer added, there will always be a demand, a premium paid for talent that can deliver, especially if someone has an established track record. Ouch. Yes, Harry and Meghan's track record right now is abysmal. It's an abysmal track record. So they're not going to get any more investments because we heard this rumor talk all the time. Well, Audible's going to pick up Archetypes. Of course, Audible's going to pick up Archetypes. Audible did not pick up Archetypes. It was never going to. It wasn't a bankable product. Why would they pick it up? Why would they waste their money on something that's not bankable? And here's the thing too, is that if Meghan Markle really wanted to prove Archetypes, what she could do is she could just release it herself. But she hasn't. And I think the reason is that Meghan Markle doesn't want to do anything unless somebody's paying her to do it. She doesn't want to put her neck out and risk anything. And honestly, I think she sort of knows, or maybe somebody has told her, is like, you might get some attention on this, but it ain't gonna go very far. And she doesn't want to risk the embarrassment, but sometimes that's how you learn. So I started out not being great at writing. I even went through grad school where my writing was, I would say, okay, but not great. You know how I learned? I had people edit me. I volunteered for things at work. I volunteered to continue to enhance my skills. And I had a job where I ended up having to write all the time. And when did you know it? I ended up being able to write pretty quickly and pretty well after a while, because you can have talent, but talent has to be honed. And Meghan Markle refuses to do that. We have this bit in Tom Bower's book, because there's a couple of bits that always stuck out to me. And this was one, is that apparently one of her professors at Northwestern thought she had some talent. No. You can debate that. But they thought she had some. They're like, well, you need to work in theater because you really hone your craft in theater. And she didn't want to do that. She wanted to immediately be a starlet. And unless you have just an obscene amount of talent, that probably won't happen. And the people who are even talented, they continue to try to make themselves better. You always need to try to make yourself better because that will make you a more bankable product, and Meghan Markle has failed to do any of that. It says, according to celebrity publicist Mitchell Jackson, the couple's reputation was harmed even more by their excitable talk of being chased by paparazzi through rush hour Manhattan. People just feel like they're untrustworthy and melodramatic. And it's just going to revolve around them, and they will distract from what they're trying to promote. You can't be self-important and last long in America. I somewhat disagree with that, but hey. Or as Brokowski says, the ongoing scrutiny surrounding the Sussexes isn't beneficial. It's a black hole, and Tinseltown negativity isn't embraced. Yes, Harry and Meghan's brand is negative. It's broadly negative. I know I have some Harry and Meghan stans who get on my Twitter and go, no, they're the best couple ever. I'm like, no, and a lot of people just don't generally like them. And because of that, they're just not a bankable brand, and they struggle with that. And because they have allowed their brand to become basically notorious with toxicity and hatred towards the royal family, people are like, you know what, I'd rather have somebody positive than somebody negative behind my brand. And that again is understandable. Why in the world would you want to go negative when you could go positive? And Hollywood right now needs a lot of positivity because obviously they had the strikes. The box office is way down this year, not just because of the strikes, but because of very bad content. And obviously all the streaming woes as well. So everybody's sort of trying to figure out what they're going to do. And so Harry and Meghan being something that's not bankable in the time where you need to be excellent. This is not just the easy time like COVID when everybody was streaming and everybody was obsessed with it. You need to actually be able to be a step above, and Harry and Meghan aren't that. Then there's also the social aspect of building a successful life in LA. As one local puts it, LA is a town where business and socializing go together, and with that, an expectation of discretion. Brand Sussex has become famous for many things, but discretion is not one. In Spare, Harry went further, detailing a party he attended at Courtney Cox's house. They're never seen in public anymore with the Clooneys or the Obamas or even the Beckhams. Serena Williams was one of Meghan's big name draws at her baby shower for Archie before Brexit, but Williams appears not to have returned the favor with an invitation to her recent baby shower. Even Harry's own ghostwriter has written in the New Yorker about Harry's struggle to realize that a memoir isn't about you, and how his favorite film, Moana, is, in particular, the scene where a silly chicken gets lost at sea. That's his favorite thing. That's funny. And that is huge. And I mentioned this before. Like when you think of Hollywood, they're sort of self-protective, somewhat like an aristocracy. The aristocracy in the UK is very self-insulated and protected. So it's hard to marry into it. And they protect each other so that their children, their grandchildren, everything have a safe space to be themselves. We see this with Catherine and William's kids. I'm sure a lot of their friends are aristocrats. Not because they are classist or anything like that, but within those circles where fame and fortune come hand to hand, or just very ancient families, they do protect each other in a way that perhaps new money or certain people might not. So it is understandable why sometimes they lean more on those friendships than others. And I think Hollywood is somewhat the same way in that Harry and Meghan continue to break that discretion, especially regarding family members' private things. People are like, yeah, you know what? I'm having this party where I'm having some magic mushrooms, and I really don't want a magic mushroom Harry at my party, so yeah, I'm not gonna invite them. No. So if Hollywood is socializing isn't happening, Harry and Meghan are going to get fewer and fewer deals. It also goes on to say, transitioning into a new sphere of influence and fame was never going to be as smooth as expected. Their ability to generate wealth and sustain their brand has faced numerous obstacles. Show business is attracted to success and financial gains. Turkeys are only acceptable for Thanksgiving. There's speculation that the industry might be growing weary of their presidents. An interviewer for The Cut magazine described Meghan sitting in a sun-dappled paradise, burning rose-scented candles, talking about how, above all, love wins. Maybe so, but in Hollywood, money talks. In future, the Sussexes might struggle to make it. 1,000% true. And we see this reflected in the recent Archwell report. So the Archwell Foundation, I honestly don't know what it's all about. I really don't. It's a mystery. It just seems to have a veritable purpose of whatever comes into Harry and Meghan's mind at any particular moment. But I think there's a very specific reason for that, and the reason why it's so ill-defined. And that's because the whole purpose of Archwell, the whole reason it was created, is for a place for Harry and Meghan to put some of their money so they can get a tax break, and that they can control that tax break. And they can also, as well, pay some of their staff members a salary from this foundation where they get a tax break. Because what was interesting about the recent Archwell 990, not only the fact that they are operating essentially in the red at this point, because they had about $2 million donated into that year, and yet at the same time they spent $2.6 million. So there was a $600,000 difference. And by the way, James Holt, their executive director, was getting a $220,000 salary in addition to a $20,000 bonus. And that is a tenth of the salary of this entire foundation. A tenth of what was generated by this foundation went to the salaries. Now, granted, again, charities do have some latitude in this area, but it seems like excessively indulgent for something that's not doing much. They always attach themselves to projects that are already ongoing. They give a little bit so that they can attach their name to something, but they don't actually have to get involved. Or if they do, they can just go for a Photoshop and then leave. But what was interesting is that there were 2 donations and each were $1 million. And I think I know who those donations were from. Now, I'm not saying this is positive because I don't know. I'm broadly ignorant about how the US tax code works. So I don't know if they have to put the names in there. But I would guess the 2 donors were Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, because Archwell is not an organization designed to grow. It's not an organization really designed to make much of an impact. It's an organization designed to make Harry and Meghan look good. So they'll donate money to it so that they can get some good PR out of it, and they can help pay the salary of James Holt and a couple other people. And at the same time, the organization gives them good PR. That is what Archewell Foundation is designed to do, because it was just really, really strange they operated such a deficit. Yes, they have money in savings, and oh my gosh, they even had somebody from the foundation basically saying, well, you know what, this is how all foundations operate. It's, you know, we had a lot of money in the bank, and so we weren't going to try to raise more money. And I'm like, well, shouldn't your money be in the bank being growing so that you can utilize it for charity? And shouldn't you, if you're fiscally responsible, actually raise enough money to cover all your expenses for your foundation? If you're not, I don't think you're fiscally sound as a company or a foundation or whatever it is at this point. And so I just think Archewell is designed in some ways to fail, because it's designed not to actually help people except for Harry and Meghan and their team. That is what it's designed to do. And I think that's why it'll broadly fail. And also too, why would you create a foundation when you don't have money like the Gates and you don't have the good public perception like the Clintons? Now, I know a lot of people don't like the Clintons, but there's a good chunk of people who do. So they at least could generate money that way. And he was also a president of the United States and has connections everywhere. Harry and Meghan have also made their brand so toxic, nobody wants to talk to them. Why would you want to talk to Harry and Meghan? Why? So, in conclusion, Harry and Meghan, unfortunately, they are this year's losers. But I think the thing is with Harry and Meghan is that they had essentially some of the building blocks to be winners, but they're not. Why? Because they're whiny. They whine about everything. Nothing is ever good enough for them. Nothing is ever right for them. Everything is wrong, and they always have to change things, and the media is not treating them right. They're having to go through lawsuits. Oh, big loser as well. Harry has to pay like $50,000 to the Daily Mail for his ongoing lawsuit. I just thought that was hysterical. That was hysterical. So bravo, Harry. You get to pay the Daily Mail, which an organization you hate, which was probably about the same amount of money, if not more, that Harry and Meghan didn't get from them for Meghan's case. I can't remember quite how the money worked for that. But that Harry and Meghan are having to cover some of the costs, again, shows them to be the losers that they are, and how their whining hasn't helped them. They have also just dipped way too much into controversy. No. And they've also failed to be hard workers. I think everybody in the industry knows at this point that Harry and Meghan don't work very hard. And we see this in their tax form. Archewell Foundation, they only give about 1 hour a week to it. And I would say that's probably stretching it. I'm sure they get a little bit of a meeting. They're like, okay, you guys do all the work and we'll just sit here in our house and enjoy Mai Tais. I think that is a huge problem for Harry and Meghan, because entertainment does require work. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of work on this channel, guys. And I would love to my things to be 1,000 times better, but there's a time crunch. I've got a lot going on. So we just have what we have, and we have to deal with it. And it's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. And so I think Harry and Meghan, again, they're not hard workers. And number 3 thing that I think is really hurting them is they don't really have talent in what they're trying to do. Meghan Markle was never a great success in Hollywood. She wasn't. She was a modest success, you could argue, but not a great one. And that was because she had minimal talent, but she failed to cultivate it. And she seemed to just trade off her looks. And at some point, beauty does fade and youth does fade, and you start getting into middle age and the acting roles start drying up, because if you notice, the actors that have long-term staying power, they're either good character actors or they're just great actors. And so those people have staying power. Meghan was always going to fade out of Hollywood because she just didn't have it. And so I'm like, what are they going to do? And Harry is, I don't know what Harry's doing. Like, his career path right now is being an occasional impact influencer for BetterUp and filing lawsuits. That is his career right now. And that ain't gonna do it. They're not gonna build this multi-billion-dollar corporation, essentially, that they were pushing in the media that they were going to create via Megxit. I remember people kept saying, oh, they're gonna have a billion-dollar brand. They're gonna have a billion-dollar brand. I was like, no, they're not. They're not a likable brand. And every year since Megxit, the brand has taken hit after hit after hit. And the only people they have to blame for being losers is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They could have had done great, but they decided to go down a toxic, negative route. And that has been disastrous for them going forward. So we shall see if Harry and Meghan, can they ever become winners? Or will they always be losers? I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in the t-shirt, check out the link, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.